We are joined now by Mike Regalado from Bruin Report to talk a little UCLA football. Mike, how are you this morning?
Good, thank you. How y'all doing?
Good, Mike. That's interesting to talking or listening to Coach Foster. I almost, that all bleep moment, right? This is the Rose Bowl. I'm kind of following the Big Ten camp and where guys were, and clearly they were just in Westwood. But I put it against a couple of things. Jackson Arnold talking about dealing with Hugh Freeze, and it was Klubnik talking about how hey, I support Sweeney. Those guys said I sucked. Like I heard what people said. When you look at Foster's personality and you pit it with Nico in terms of coming home and what he had to do with leaving Tennessee, do you like kind of how this is happening in the off season with the just? I mean, Coach Foster keeps it a buck. He doesn't pull any punches with being a straight shooter. Does that mesh, in your opinion, you think, with Nico and some ownership about what he wants to do in Los Angeles?
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting mesh, as you say, connection. Whatever it is, because well, one thing that stood out, and I think that this goes with the entire staff and the team, the UCLA football team, is that last night on the Big Ten Network, uh, offensive coordinator Tino Sinceri was honest about it. He goes, I heard about the what was going on with Nico at Tennessee, and I did, he said I did have those like um, opinions about him, but then he took 5 minutes to actually talk to him, and that was out the window. And that seems to be the entire um, the epitome of how this coaching staff is embracing what Nico is bringing, and vice versa. Nico understands that he's in a new environment. Things are completely different from what they were at Tennessee, and to be able to come in, almost seamlessly, and just just to be able to contribute to this offense is something that is beneficial to both. And then just looking at how the team is performing during practices, even albeit the little bit of time that we do get to see practice, um, it's looking good overall. So it just seems like it was just a good meeting of the minds. It was kind of like a perfect fit, right place, right time, and I think we're going to see good things from UCLA.
It's interesting, Mike. I know you're kind of caught in the crosshairs between my partner and I, but I used to play at Nebraska. I was traumatized. I was benched in the Rose Bowl, and I got my job taken by a guy by the name of Lawrence Phillips. And so I'm always traumatized about going back to the Rose Bowl, right? Nebraska got hammered there against Miami in '01. I could make up a laundry list. But he and I got on this deal about Nico and transferring and leaving Tennessee, coming to a guy like Coach Foster in Westwood. And we went back and forth about, well, is this the dad's doing? Maybe it's not the kid. The kid hasn't said anything. They just keep throwing numbers out. And we got into this knockdown drag out for like 3 days about UCLA, not only because they were coming off the win the last time they were in Lincoln, but just the trauma, right? Dana Brinson getting knocked out in '88. Like, there's just a laundry list of UCLA Nebraska stuff. Having said that, do you feel Nico was misportrayed in kind of this whole deal of how it played out with what happened and transpired at Tennessee versus what UCLA inherited? Because we still haven't really heard from Nico, but this time I think it's okay, right? Like, it's okay if we don't hear from him until now.
No, totally. And yeah, we want to keep some positivity here, but we don't know what goes on behind the scenes, and in that manner, it could have actually been worse. Could have been better, but we don't know.
Yeah.
But everything that I heard, and I'm not going to comment on players, parents and all that, because
Right.
it's a whole new thing with NIL and trying to figure out what's the best place for my kid, whatever. That's their issue. But everything that I've heard, the way that Nico presents himself, he just seems like a stand-up guy who he just wants to play football. He wants to make his teammates better, and he just wants to throw the ball around and have some fun. And it seems like, as I said before, this is going to be a really good fit for him.
Nice.
Mike, I want to get to the other side of the ball. Obviously, as in the games that UCLA played well last year, the defense was a strength. They have a lot of turnover, but they've got some transfers they like on that side of the ball. How do you see that all coming together?
It was weird when Danton Lynn just bolted for USC across town because his 1 year in Westwood, Chip Kelly's last, that was 2 seasons ago, he just absolutely turned the defense around, and it was just
Really
weird,
good.
especially for UCLA fans. During the Chip Kelly era, they either had a really good offense and a subpar defense. That year, their defense was excellent, and the offense was meh. So that was one key that UCLA fans were hoping they would keep, and then boom, goes to USC. Well, they had to get another defensive coordinator, so they turned to Keiko Malloy, who was the defensive line coach at the time, and he has just done an amazing job. And granted, he has done a lot of similar things to what Danton Lynn did. A lot of pressure. They really use the edges. One thing that really they have to shore up, something that just hasn't been good in Westwood in a long time is the secondary. Well, that seems to be a different situation now, especially since, as you said, there's a lot of turnover, but they brought in a lot of really talented guys. The only problem with that is that they don't know the system, they don't have chemistry, and that was one of the things about taking the team out of Westwood and going to Costa Mesa is to have that bonding, to have a quicker meshing, if you will, with the team. And there's still a lot of question marks, but they have brought in a lot of really talented guys. Isaiah Chisholm from Oregon State, Key Lawrence from Ole Miss, who's a safety, and he's just a fan favorite already. Hasn't even played a single down in blue gold, but the fans are loving him. And then you got guys who have been here already, like CLA Tupaki, Jalen Woods, John Bonds, who are the heart of the defense, and they know what Malloy requires of them, and they are there to make sure that they carry it out. But yeah, the thing is that they're going to need to really get on the same page really quickly. But I don't know. There's just something about Malloy that there's some comfort in his coaching, in his style, and it seems that there's definitely going to be a drop off. You can't not have a drop off when you lose a guy like Carson Schweschinger, Kane Madrano, Olufemi Oladejo. Those guys were just absolute ballers. But this is college football. You got to just push through.
I take Yogi at his word. We got a really good working relationship, and I think he shoots us straight. And he talked about the depth in Westwood along the defensive line, and it's just it's not things that you hear go hand in hand, right? 7, 8 defensive linemen and depth in Westwood, and it's thinking, well, it's Yogi. He's not going to say it if he doesn't believe it to be true. Is that kind of the sentiment that you can kind of rally along or behind the depth up front for this UCLA Bruin bunch?
Definitely. And I attribute that to the fact that, like I said, Malloy was the defensive line coach, so he knows exactly what he wants up front. He knows that he needs to get pressure on the quarterback. He has to disrupt the offensive game plan, and guys are coming in just understanding what the job is and are executing. As far as we've seen, haven't had a lot of time to watch practice, but these are guys that are just flying around the field, doing what they're supposed to, but at the same time trying to assimilate into this brotherhood of UCLA football. And so far, it looks pretty good. But it just seems like everyone that comes in understands what Malloy wants, and he's going to get it.
Mike, I kind of like to break schedules down and see like, hey, this is a key stretch for this team or whatever. Obviously, you get the tough game with Utah right out of the gate. You get Penn State start of October. You've got a couple interesting stretches, though, I think, in particular. One is at Indiana, Nebraska, at Ohio State, which is a really interesting stretch between October 25th and November 15th. You do get a bye game in there, or a bye week in there, but also kind of overlapping on that one is the at Ohio State, Washington at home, at USC. If you had to pick a 3-game stretch that you think could end up defining UCLA's season, which one is it?
That's tough.
Or maybe I didn't even mention it. Maybe it's a different one.
That's tough because the first half of the season is it is so much easier aside from that Penn State game, which I believe is week 5.
Yep.
But yeah, that second half, like I don't even know. It's just that's just a murderer's row. But funny enough, UCLA's kind of used to this. The last few years, UCLA has had 3 or 4 game stretches in which you just see that beforehand, and you just think to yourself that is going to be brutal. If UCLA at least comes out with a win, that's probably good for the season. But yeah, there's that's going to be a huge stretch down the line. But the good thing is that it's in the second half of the season, and hopefully UCLA has warmed up the tires at that point and is ready to go and take on some of these teams. But yeah, having Penn State, although again, that's at the beginning of the season. Washington at USC, although UCLA has won at USC the last 3 times, that's something that they can hang their hat on. But that Ohio State game in November, that's going to be brutal. Indiana, that's they UCLA fans last year were like, oh, Indiana, they're pretty good. They came into the Rose Bowl and just whipped on the Bruins, so that one's not looking too good either. But yeah, I think one can hope that UCLA just does not get obliterated by a couple of those games. But I think UCLA is very competitive. One thing, even though it was a struggle, it was hard to watch at times last season. You could tell in the fourth quarters of several games, all games last year actually, they didn't quit. They kept playing like it was a start, like it was the early first quarter. And yeah, that's something that Deshaun Foster has instilled in this team. Like, we're not quitting. Yeah, we're down 20. Keep going out there. You want playing time? Get out there and do what you're supposed to do.
Mike, let me get you out of this last one from me anyway. And maybe they go hand in hand, and I get that answer. But if you had to pick and you need somebody to kind of step up and develop, if this team is going to be what Coach Foster wants them to be, are you taking Quasi Gilner out at wide out? Or are you taking Javian Thomas at running back? If UCLA wants to be who Foster wants them to be, who needs to emerge first?
That's a tough one, because obviously you have to establish your ground game, and Jet brings that. Javian Thomas, because they have Jalen Berger, who didn't have a full fall camp a year ago,
and Woods is back too, right?
I'm sorry.
And Woods is back too, right?
Yes. Yeah. So the running game is going to be, I think for Foster, that's going to be really important to try to establish, because it was just it was horrible. It was third to last in the nation last year, and as a running back himself, that's something that Foster takes pride in. So it's going to be, I think that's going to be a huge need. But I'm waiting to see what Quasi does. I'm waiting to see what Rico Flores does when he comes back from injury. Titus should be pretty good, but yeah, Quasi is going to be an absolute beast this year.
Who's leading the way at tight end? Is it going to be Hudson?
Definitely Hudson Habermill. Very talented tight end, and I was actually there at spring practice a year and a half ago when he tore his ACL, and that was just a rough scene, because just injured and in pain, and he was going to be the guy. Last year it was Moliki Mataveo, but now Hudson's stepping up, and it looks like he's going to be a featured piece of this offense. So I'm very excited to see what his comeback story is about.
Yeah, don't worry, Mike. I can still see Mataveo making catches in Lincoln against Nebraska last year. So I always got to ask about the tight end position.
Yeah. No, I Chip Kelly was huge on tight ends, and it looks like Foster is as well. So I do like that. I like the big guys who can not only block but can get out into the open and bring in 15, 20 yards.
That's Mike Regalado from Bruin Report joining us. Thank you, Mike, for the insight on UCLA, and we'll hopefully talk to you soon.
Appreciate you getting up early, Mike.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Mike Regalado from Bruin Report.
I felt like
they're an interesting team. I don't know.
I felt like the camp preview from BTN wasn't overly optimistic. That was my vibe.
I'm
going to go back.
Either.
But I didn't want to pit it against what I feel.
Can I just say this about Nico?
Yeah.
Tennessee was awfully okay with him leaving.
I tell you what, though, you and I, we did not see eye to eye on that deal for a week.
The hardest thing, I understand what Mike was saying. I understand, you spend 5 minutes with a kid, you can see he's not like that. Tennessee was pretty okay with him getting out the door.
I don't know, man.
I don't know either, but if he was all good, like
you want to relitigate that fight? I was Team Nico in that one.
I know you were. I was team.
Don't be high maintenance.
Yeah, like you're the one that doesn't want a babysitter all the time. Like my guy just doesn't have a babysitter. He's got like dad moving on campus with him. Sounds like. So I don't know. If I've got a guy that talented, what's the thing we always say, right? Your talent dictates how much leeway you get, right?
Yeah.
By all accounts, people think Nico's pretty talented. Tennessee was pretty quick to let him go. They were pretty quick to let him out the door.
I actually can't wait for that opener because I don't have to. I think Utah is going to be really, really good. I'm afraid of their schedule, but in the opener, I don't have to worry about that. I'm telling you right now,
I like
Utah will be a menace in that opener.
You don't got to tell me. I'm a Kyle Whittingham guy. Always have.
Dampier, they're going to be nice in that opener.
Dampier's going to be a problem, especially until you get like a scout on him against major
But that Utah schedule is not super user friendly.